Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll receive insight, inspiration, and advice for aligning your mind, body, and spirit to achieve a fulfilled life and live your purpose with me, your host, Jennifer Spohr. You'll also hear from other leaders who share their inspirational stories and wisdom in living fulfilled, on purpose, and making an impact. If you're a mission-driven leader and you're passionate about learning and integrating all the things that empower you to live and lead a fulfilled, purpose-led life, this is the show for you. I'm really excited to have as a guest to the show today, Udo Erasmus. He is the founder of Udo's Choice line, an acclaimed speaker and author of many books, including the best-selling Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, which has sold over 250,000 copies. He teaches at events hosted by Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra, has keynoted an international brain health conference, and has traveled over to 30 countries to conduct thousands of live presentations, media interviews, and staff trainings, impacting more than 25 million lives with his message on oils, health, peace, nature, and human nature. Udo has an extensive education in biochemistry, genetics, biology, and nutrition, including a master's degree in counseling psychology. Wow, what an amazingly diverse background. Welcome.
Like who are they talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about you.
I know. Yeah, well, I'm 79. You know, it's a matter of time. The longer you live, the more things you get involved with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just put it that way.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you. And I'd love for you to share with us more about your journey that led to where you are today and what inspired you to do all this amazing work.
Yeah. Well, I was born during the Second World War, 1942. And when I was 2.5 years old, we were refugees fleeing in horse-drawn hay wagons, mothers with young children. All the men were off to war, on dirt roads with no military presence. And we were being chased by the communists in tanks and trucks. And the Allies, who were supposed to be the good guys, were using us refugees as target practice from planes. They were shooting at us, right?
Yeah.
And it was chaotic. It was super chaotic. I remember mostly just feeling unsafe and confused. Because one day you'd hear one thing and the next day you'd hear something else. And when you're 2.5 years old, you know, stability is a useful thing. And so I was very, very shy, but that experience kind of set me up for how bad it can get when we don't pay attention, when we don't do what we need to do in order to be in cooperation, in harmony, in peace, you know, in care, right? And when I was 6 years old, I listened to adults argue about stuff that really seemed trivial to a 6-year-old. So it must have been pretty trivial. And I thought, man, there has to be a way that people can live in harmony.
At 6?
And at 6. And I'm going to find out how. And that's where all my education comes from, because I was always trying to understand how things work, because I didn't have much I could rely on. So science is always good for understanding how things work. And then bioscience is how creatures work. And then psychology, how thinking works. You know, and if you're trying to find how people can live in harmony, those are good things to understand. Then I got into medicine to understand what health is, but we only learned about disease. So then I went back into biological sciences, because that's where you study health. Normal functioning of normal creatures in normal situations. That's about health. In medicine, they study disease, abnormal functioning, you know, in abnormal situations. Well, you're not going to find out what health is by studying disease. You're going to find what health is by studying health. It's like, I want to know what light is, so I look into the darkness. It's like, what?
Well, that makes sense, though.
Yeah, what you want to get to know, you need to focus on what you want to get to know, not on the absence of what you want to get to know. So it's like, this is stupid. And then I got into biochemistry and genetics. And then there was still something missing. And I went through some of the arts faculties, sociology, anthropology, social psychology, a little bit of theology. And it was still hadn't found what I was looking for. Like U2 says, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And then I left university and ended up in self-knowledge, because what I really needed to know, and it took me 30 years to figure that out, what I really needed to know is how I work. And then it began. And then it started, when I started, and that means bringing focus back into the space that my body occupies, being here, being present in that space. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? Because there's a lot going on inside of that space that we mostly look away from. But if you want to live a good life and you want to have a strong foundation, you need to be present in your own life.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where our power to create is.
Yeah, that's where the power to be content and feel cared for lives, and the peace is there. And then out of being able to settle down, then everything becomes possible. The reason I have this background is this is the clutter, and this is the place where creation takes place.
Oh, nothing I like here, that. Yeah.
Right. And we all have that. We both have the clutter in our mind and in the world that we live in, where things are always changing. And at the same time, we have a foundation inside that is always there, always calm, always present. And anything becomes possible from that place.
I love that. And I really, really resonate with what you said. You had mentioned that theology was one of the things that you had studied. What is I believe that everything is connected, and that every one of our experiences serves a purpose in our journey.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on what role spirituality plays?
Well, spirituality is the foundation of reality, but you don't find that out in theology. You just get ideas, and when you're looking for foundation, it can't be an idea. It has to be an experience. It's real when you feel it. It's real when you know it. It's not real when you have an idea that you've memorized.
I love that you say no, right? Knowing it. Mm-hmm. Something I often think of is, the difference between hoping and knowing. And hoping is great, right? But it still implies that something may not happen. There's a difference when you have a knowingness, a sense of knowing.
Yeah, there's an attitude you can have about something is going to happen, and you can live as though it's going to happen. But there's even one more step, which is when you live in the happening. Yes. So it's not coming in future, but it's in the present.
Yes.
And if you and that's where spirituality becomes real. Just as a feeling, just as a presence, just as a state. Right?
State of being.
A state, yeah, it's a state of being.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the state of being, what is it? The probably the biggest issue in that state of being is peace. Everything is okay. Everything is okay. Nothing is missing. You have everything. You are.
It's so true. Love. I mean, that's the highest vibrational, frequency. Mm-hmm. And as humans, we're really cute in that we complicate things, and really it is actually very simple.
Yeah.
If you're willing to let go of what you've been conditioned to believe, or,
right. It's not in the realm of thought.
Yeah.
Because thoughts are not real. So thoughts are unreal. Reality is beyond thought. Reality is, you can have, there are thoughts in reality, but the reality is not dependent on the thoughts.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Reality is self-dependent.
Absolutely.
And so that all of that spirituality and where God lives, everywhere inside of you, everywhere, everywhere.
Yes.
In this peace that is the foundation, that is also called God. It has always been, peace has always been everywhere. And everything takes place. The whole dance takes place in peace, whether you're talking about the universe or you're talking about yourself or you're talking about your neighborhood, everything unfolds in that peace. Peace is the foundation of everything. And when we don't cultivate or connect to that peace that is everywhere, then we're living without foundation.
So
And when we
true.
live without foundation, things don't work well because everything's arbitrary. It's all made up. But when you live on that foundation, everything becomes easy.
That's so true. And I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but when you don't have that foundation, right, that's when you're reaching out externally for the solution.
And the most important things we look for, whether it's to be content or to be calm or to feel loved and cared for, we look for that on the outside, but it's always the perfect, the unconditional love that people want from a partner is actually taking care of the body from inside. Unconditional love. Solar energy, which is life, unconditionally loves the body, weighs nothing, takes care of everything, never takes time off, 24/7, never asks for a raise, never goes on strike, right? So the unconditional love we're looking for, we have, not only do we have it, but that's also our essence. Because if I said to you, hey, Jennifer, whose body is that? What would you say to me?
Well, it's mine, technically.
Yeah, everybody, that's what most people would say. Oh, that's my body.
Yeah.
But you've just said that you're not the body.
Yes.
If that is your body, then you are the owner.
Right.
And the body is your property. So then the question becomes, who are you as the owner?
Right. I'm not my body. Well,
Yeah.
but I'm not my body. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, and most people would have to say, well, I don't actually know who I am.
I'm having an experience in this body.
Yeah.
With it, you know.
Right. But so who's the owner? Well, life is the owner. And life is solar energy. Goes through leaves into bonds between atoms, stored there, food.
Yes.
We eat it, break it down, and we live on solar energy. That solar energy is unconditional love. When I do a stillness practice and I feel that care, that solar energy, which I get closer to by doing my stillness practice, when I feel that, everything changes, because now it's like, okay, I'm taken care of, because life has no needs, right? The body's always needs something. You got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to
yes.
you got to you got to dress, you got to undress, you got to do this, you got to do that. Life has no needs. So because life has no needs, it doesn't say what can I do to get taken care of, because it is care. Then it's like, okay, where can I help? What needs to be done? How can I use this body to make the biggest splash for good in one lifetime, in one body? Completely changes the orientation. And if we did a practice where we connect with our essential being, that unconditional love, imagine 8 billion people doing that. How the world would be different, right? Because we'd feel so cared for, we wouldn't steal each other's stuff. When we don't steal each other's stuff, we can live in harmony. When we live in harmony, making sure that all basic needs of everyone, everywhere are met.
Right. Every conflict.
Very easy.
Yeah. Every conflict, anything that is a discontent in the world is the result of separation.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. There's no conflict here. No one has ever done an act of violence while feeling content.
Exactly.
It always comes out of discontent, and discontent comes out of disconnection from the unconditional love that we are in
So
our
true.
sacred being.
I'd love to ask you a question that comes up a lot. So you mentioned the stillness practice, and I believe that too, and I've been doing that for many years. But a lot of people are quick to kind of say, no, I can't do that. I can't do meditation. What would be your advice for someone who is beginning that practice, for them to be, to feel successful with it?
The first thing is that whenever your heart aches, that's your call to come home to yourself. Doesn't matter what triggered it, because it's usually things on the outside. When something ends, grandma dies, a dog runs away, somebody betrays your trust, your boyfriend or girlfriend dumps you, right? So usually it's an outside trigger that makes our heart ache. But the heartache is actually about our disconnection from ourselves. If you bring it right down to what it really is. And that disconnection began when we were born, because we had to get to know the world. In our mother's womb, we were actually connected inside, because there was no place to go, nothing to do, everything was taken care of, and it was safe. So we were just hanging out, floating in our little, I call it the Buddha tank, right? Floating in the Buddha tank, in the light, in contentment, nothing, just like hanging out. So we were present inside, but absent outside. We didn't even know there was a world, and we had no words and all of that, right? And then we got born, and then the journey began, going outward through our senses to monitor change. That's important for survival. And we got disconnected. So we ended up from present inside, absent outside, to being present outside, absent inside. That's where heartache began. Our disconnect from ourselves. And the heartache is the call. Bring your awareness home, bring your awareness home. So sit with the heartache, sit in the heartache.
Yeah.
Quietly. Maybe you'll have a few tears running down your cheeks, whatever. But if you sit quietly in that heartache, that far behind it, less than a hair's breadth behind your heartache, is your wholeness, is that love, is that contentment, is that peace. So that's the first thing. So know it's already within you, and it is incredibly beautiful, awesome, and magnificent. That's number one. Number two, feel the thirst. And then number three, the first thing that'll happen is we're so addicted to doing and thinking that when we sit still, we get to a place where we say, that's boring. No, when you feel bored, be really happy, because number one, feel how peaceful the boredom is. And number two is you're already out of your addiction, but you haven't quite gotten into the light yet. So the boredom is the place between those two places. So if you're bored, you're actually accomplishing something. You've actually done something already. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And fall in love with the boredom. You can fall in love with anything, right?
And that's programming, right? Because that again goes back to how traditional society, has taught many people that we have to always be doing something, that in order to accomplish something, we have to do something. And so boredom, and I don't view it as boredom. I mean, I really love and enjoy, just being in the silence, right? To be present, to listen. But it is an unlearning.
Yeah. And then one more thing, accept that it's going to take practice, just like it did when you started to walk. When you started, you fell on your schnoz, you fell down and you fell down and you got up and you fell down again. And then you got up and then you tottered and then you fell down. Right. And then somebody said, oh, come, and you ran across the room. And just before you got into the person's arms, you fell down. Right. But you never quit. And you get good at what you practice. You want to get good at living in contentment and in peace and in harmony and in unconditional love. Practice. And you will become good at it. I've been doing it for almost 50 years. When I started, it was hard. Then I was listening to myself one day saying, oh man, this is so hard. And I said, gee, I wonder what would happen if I said, wow, this is really easy. So I just tried it. It wasn't easy. It was completely I just made it up, right? But I found out that when I said, oh, this is easy, it became easy. It became a lot easier. And so I realized that what I'm saying to myself, I can't do this. This is boring. It's really hard. Oh, I'm just not made for it. You're actually talking yourself out of the most incredible journey that is possible for a human being to be on. And anybody can go, anybody can come home. There's no government that tells you have to lock down. I say to people, if you can't go outside, go inside. There's nothing. The door is open. There's no blocks except all the thoughts that you create that get in your own way. Because if you could get out of your thoughts, you would already be in that peace and feeling that unconditional love. Absolutely. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say. It's like, this is like set the standard. I want to have the experience that Buddha had, let's say, right? I don't want to be Buddha. That's his trip, right? I don't want to be Buddha, but I want to have the experience he had, because what he said, some of what he said came, it's poetry. And you don't write poetry without an experience. So my question is, what was the experience that led to that poetry? Because I want to have that experience and write my own poetry. Because it's possible. What was in them is in us. What was in the masters is in us. And they all said it. They never said, I'm really good and you guys are really messed up. And you have to do this formula and you have to do this thing and, you have to believe, right? They didn't say that. They said, what I have, you have. What I can do more than that, you can do. What you've done to the least of these, that you have done to me, means I am in everybody. That essence that they talked about, that human nature teaching that they did, came from them being fully present in all of their being. Because you can't teach human nature if you only got a head trip about human nature. There's so much of human nature is not academic, is not belief-based, is not word-based. So much of it is experiential. What does it feel like to be alive? What does it feel like in the space your body occupies? Inside the space your body occupies.
I love that you brought that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. And I was going to say, we talk about purpose. We always think, oh, you got to do something, and doing is always outside. But your number one purpose is that you were given a gift to be a human being. You only get it for a while. Number one purpose is to fully get present, to unwrap that gift and to fully enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, nobody can enjoy it for you, and it's a wasted gift. So number one is to be fully present in the magnificence of your own being. And then number two is help where you can. Do something that gets people less pain, more joy. And then that becomes your contribution to the outside world. But don't neglect the inside world, because if you're not fully present in all of your being, to the extent you're not present, you also can't bring that into the world.
Yeah.
So if you're only 1/10 present in your own nature, then you're only going to perform 1/10 of your possibility. Yeah, right? Because when you get fully present, then you get to see how many gifts you have.
Yes. I think you were reading my mind, so to speak, because I was really going to ask you, what would be your number one piece of advice for someone to navigate, right, on through their journey, and especially through what many people feel are uncertain times?
Yeah, I would say do your homework. The work you do at home, right? Do your homework.
Yes.
Make that the most important thing in your life. Do your homework. By the way, they all said that. Do this first. Make this the most important thing. We do it the last. It still works. But they said, if you're wise, you put that first. You do it every day. You take the time, just like you go You know, when the bathroom
Yeah.
calls you, you immediately go. When your heart calls you, you ignore it. When your body's tired, you jump into bed. When your heart calls you, you ignore it. When you're hungry, you go and have your food, whatever it is, bacon and eggs or veggies or whatever, right? But when your heart calls you, you don't respond. Do your homework.
Oh my God, you're so funny. You're so funny. Yeah, it's well, again, that goes back to the programming, right? You know, we so many people are taught also that vulnerability is a weakness, and I mean, that's really what I believe is a cause of a lot of the discontent and conflict in our world too. It's someone who has unhealed trauma.
Well, the trauma is the disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not even,
but they've not, they don't process like
people,
go ahead. I was going to say they shove their feelings down.
Yeah, no, people get trauma, and trauma shows them their disconnection. Some people think that trauma disconnects you. It doesn't. Disconnecting is natural, normal human process. Your awareness wanders out from yourself into the world. And then a trauma will remind you, because then your heart will ache. But the trauma didn't make your heart ache. The trauma just made you notice that your heart is disconnected. So there's trauma. So we blame it on trauma, and then we blame it on the people who caused the trauma. But that's actually not accurate. Your disconnection is a natural process. There's nobody you can blame on it. And your reconnection is your own journey back. And in a way, nobody can help you, right? In a way, nobody can hurt you and nobody can help you on that journey, on that particular journey. Because this is on a level, this is on a deeper level. Trauma is on a much more superficial level. Like this is on the level of awareness and life energy and inspiration, the internal journey. Trauma is on the level of physical, mental, emotional, social, environmental, and sexual, which is also physical, right? So this journey is not the trauma journey. Trauma is just one more reminder. So whatever it is, you fall down and you skin your elbow. My grandson just did that, right? So then he cried, and so he realized the world is a tough place, right? When you fall and somebody else falls on top of you, it hurts, right? But that's not what pulled him out of himself. That happens even if you have no trauma at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense.
It's subtle in a way, but blaming, and you have to deal with the traumas. I'm not saying you shouldn't deal with the traumas. If things happen to you that were inappropriate and painful, then yeah, you have to cry your tears and you have to sort them out and you have to learn what you need to learn, like don't be with certain people or don't go into certain dangerous places or whatever it is that is the lesson, the worldly lesson of pain, right? Of trauma, of injury, right? You want to learn that. But this journey has nothing to do with that. This journey is just about coming home from your disconnection. And if you want to put it in trauma language, then your first trauma was being born and your awareness wandering out from yourself. That would be the original trauma. And how you fix that trauma is you bring your awareness back home. And how do you do that? You sit still, you pretend you're in the Buddha tank and there's nothing to do, nowhere to be, and there's nothing to distract you. And then you just hang out with yourself until you feel full. Right?
Yeah. Cool. And you don't need anything to feel full, just you.
Yeah, no, because you're already full.
Yeah.
The only thing that happened is the focus wandered off. This was always here. The love is there, the peace is there, the contentment is there, the insight is there, the joy is there. It's built in, it's a state of being, it's unconditional. Nothing can ever make that go away. Just your awareness wanders off. Oh, what's that? Oh, listen to that, right? And it's through our senses that we wander off. Oh, let me think about that, right? So the focus wandered elsewhere, but the peace never left, and the unconditional love never left, and the inspiration never left, and the joy is still there, and the wholeness is still in you, and something beyond health and illness and beyond life and death is within you, and it's awesome.
It is awesome.
And it's a shame, and it's a shame to miss this incredible gift.
Right. It really is.
To not unpack it.
Yeah.
Not just like.
It really is amazing and a gift.
Not to wallow in it. It was, what a shame,
right.
Not to wallow in this gift.
It is really amazing. So grateful. Thank you for that insight. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
In closing, is there anything else that you're feeling guided to bring forward to listeners?
Just do it.
I love that.
Just do it. Just do your homework. No, and you know what? Sometimes people say, well, this is new, and, well, hang out with people who have some experience in that arena, and read some books about it. Eckhart Tolle's book is a staple, I think, in this arena. Khalil Gibran's The Prophet is a kind of interesting book if you're starting off, or find somebody who's willing to teach you. But the journey is a personal journey, so you can have a teacher, mentor, master you can listen to them. Part of the reason why you want to hang out with people like that is you get a contact high. When somebody is inspired, you get inspired. I've been with teachers. I found, how do you know when you have a good teacher? Well, if you go there feeling good, when you're done, you feel better. And if you go there feeling bad, when you're done, you feel better, right? Because you get a contact high. Somebody expresses whatever it is that they express, and it makes sense. And you get to do some processing and you get to see that you have some beliefs that maybe don't actually make sense anymore, right? But mainly, if you listen to the tone of their voice, the tone carries the experience. The words, not so much. So you could say any words in the right tone, and it would be uplifting. Even if you said to a little kid, "Oh, you're so ugly." So you say nasty words, but with a beautiful tone, and the kid will smile and big grin on his face and smile at you, right? And you could say really nice words, but with anger behind them, and you pick up on the energy of the words. If you hang out with people who are in a good energy, you get a contact high. But it's important, I think, that I know a way to get to that energy without having to rely on somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I need it when I need it. And sometimes the guy that I run after, or the person I run after,
right,
that gives me that contact high, sometimes they're not available. And the only reason why I get the contact high is because that experience already lives within me already. So what do I have to do to not depend on somebody talking me into it or giving me the contact high? What do I need to do to find that space within me and enjoy that space anytime I want? In the middle of the night, if I wake up, anytime I want.
Yeah, it's always there.
While I'm sitting on the bathroom, while I'm sitting on the toilet, anytime I want. While I'm eating breakfast, while I'm for a walk in the woods by myself. When my family went on a holiday and I couldn't go, so I stayed home and I'm all by myself. I want to be able to get into that space when there's nobody around to make it happen for me. Because then I'm free. Now I'm free. Now I'm free. I literally am in and self-dependent for that experience. And it's a work in progress. I'm still working on it. It gets better and better. We're
eternal students, right?
I've never seen the bottom of how deep it goes. And I've been doing it for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine a life without it anymore. It's the most important thing. And the reason why we're screwing up the planet, and the reason we're screwing up our politics, and the reason we're screwing up our relationships, and the reasons why we're screwing up our health, mainly has to do with not doing the foundational stillness practice that gets us in touch with feeling good. And then when that becomes our state of being, it comes to expression. So someone in peace will perceive a world in peace, but also will build a world in peace. And someone in anger, will look at that same world and see enemies there. And if there aren't any enemies there, we'll create them so they can live in a world of anger. So if we want the world to be better, we need to get into a deeper, better, more whole state of being. And that's the homework. And there's not a person on this planet that doesn't have that in them, that can't get to it, that can't go deeper, that can't be a part, an equally important part as anybody else, of the change, of the transformation of the world into this heaven on earth that we've heard it's supposed to be. Because we already live in it. We're just not noticing. We're just not noticing. We're just not paying attention.
Exactly. Absolutely. Udo, thank you so much for your time today and for just all of your insight and wisdom. I know that everyone that listens to this is going to receive so much from it.
Cool. I hope so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for what you're doing, because if it wasn't for you, I'd be talking to myself. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love these podcasts because we get to say what we want to say, and people get to listen to them, watch them if they want to. And if the message is good, the amplifier is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful for you as well, and just for all that you're doing and the impact that you're having. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you for listening to the Awaken on Purpose podcast. Please visit me and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can achieve a fulfilled life, live your purpose, and make an impact as a mission-driven leader, visit me at jenniferspoor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join Awaken on Purpose, the community, to connect, collaborate, and grow in business and life with others who are like-minded.